Good evening, KSRA watchers. We're starting a little bit late tonight. Actually getting Kevin Jones hooked up technologically. We're working on that right now. So if you can just pause for just 1 second as we bring him on board, and we're still in the process of doing that. So as we do that, I don't have any elevator music for you to listen to or anything like that, but we'll get that going here pretty soon to talk to him about the active duty military personnel that are stationed out of state but are Kansas State residents and able to get their CCL now more easily through House Bill 2502. So I wanted to talk with him about that and that portion of the bill. Like I said, we're having some technical difficulties, so just hang on. We'll be right back, and you can actually probably see me and talking to him on the phone at the same time, but we'll be right back with you, okay?
Microphone. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, there we go. I can hear you. Do I need my phone on now?
No. Can you hear me now?
Much better. Wow.
The old Verizon.
Yeah.
All right. Well, guys, we're back. Those that are watching tonight. Kevin, why don't you introduce yourself and about your district and just kind of tell us a little bit about some committees that you serve on too.
Sure. Yeah, I'm Kevin Jones, and this is the first time I've ever done this type of thing. So if I'm looking in the wrong place or whatever, hey, I'm sorry. But I represent the 5th District here in Kansas. Live in Wellsville, and we're real close. We're only like 30 minutes from like Kansas City, Olathe area. But my district is all south of me. It's mainly rural. So we live in Wellsville. I can walk to the top of the district. It's about an hour and 20-minute drive to the bottom of the district down below, like Colony area. And then on the east side, Osawatomie. I have Osawatomie. I have go south of that, Centerville and Parker and that area. And then on the west, I have Westphalia, Welda, some of the towns over there in it. So it's pretty big. It doesn't quite get to Ottawa, Kansas, but it's pretty big and pretty rural. And so I've been in the House of Representatives now. This is my 4th year, and enjoyable. And certainly one of the more enjoyable things about it has been being able to work on the gun bills and life bills and things like that. So I'm excited to actually talk about the bill tonight that I was able to get through and help active duty. One thing I should probably say is just a little bit of background. I was a youth pastor and a pastor for about 8 years in the Wichita area. That's where I met my wife. And we went from there. We actually went in the military, and so I was in the military almost 6 years, about 5.5 years, and earned my Green Beret. I served up with First Group up in Fort Lewis McChord. And so we got out, came back home to Wellsville, Kansas, and that's when I started getting involved locally in like school board, planning commission, things like that. And then that's how I ended up getting in the House of Representatives. So, so military is near and dear. All the time, I consider going back in because of the camaraderie, because of brotherhood and things like that. So, so yeah, that's one of those things that's near and dear. I'm on Military Veteran Homeland Security. That's one of my committees I serve on. With that, I just got switched off the Health and Human Services to EDGER, so I've been on Health and Human Services. I know a lot of that kind of stuff, but I'm on the Education Committee. I'm on Pensions and Benefits. I've been on that for 4 years, which is important to me. And then I'm on a interim security committee also, and I'm on institutions, which is it's financial institute now, so that's a really big committee. But so they got me real busy. I'm on lots of committees. I tend to have 4 or 5 each year, and so yeah, it's been good. So
great. I mean, that gives us a good picture of who you are.
Yeah,
and where you're from, and everything that you've been through. And thank you for your service. We appreciate so much your service in the military. And it's a special place in my heart, I know, from having a military family background somewhat myself. So
right.
It's just a special thing. So now, how did I know the 2502, which was the mega bill that got passed?
Yep.
Wasn't always what it is. And I talked to JR and I talked to Blake, and they described how that came to be through conference and all that type of thing.
Right.
And described it to folks. But you authored House Bill 2591,
yes,
which was put into 2502. Tell us, what did House Bill 2591, what was in your mind when you came up with that legislation?
Well, and thank you for the question. 2591, actually, I've had it for a couple of years. And it came from down in Centerville, actually one of the smaller towns, smaller areas in my district. But she wrote me. It was a mom, and her daughter was in the Coast Guard. Hadn't been in the Coast Guard very long, and so she wanted. And they were having a horrible time for her getting her conceal and carry, which just doesn't make a lot of sense. It shouldn't be that hard to get your conceal and carry, but in this circumstance, it really was a difficult situation. What happened was the daughter started her class for conceal and carry. And as you know, the process is one in which you have to go through the class. You have to take the certification and stuff you get there, and you go to the local sheriff. You have to go through different steps, everything from getting your fingerprints and getting checked out like that, and then from that they essentially send it on to the Attorney General, and from the Attorney General, essentially, it goes on to where you can actually get your conceal and carry license. The trouble was with this particular situation is that she started the conceal and carry class, and then she got to a certain point and she got called back, so she had to go back. So she wasn't able to get everything. She just had the one portion, and so the mom was like, "Hey, why can't she get, like, in the military we go through training, we go through so much the background checks and things like that. Why can't that just be sufficient for the actual kind of background and all that kind of stuff with the local sheriff? So it's like, so you don't have to keep going back and forth." So essentially what happened for them, I thought it was 2 years, but it actually took about 1.5 years for her to get her conceal and carry, because what happened is she did her actual class. And then back, and she got to come back for like Christmas. And when she came back, she went over to the sheriff's, but she didn't have something else that she needed. And then she got called back again to up in Connecticut, I think is where she's stationed. No, Maine. Sorry, she was stationed in Maine, or is stationed in Maine, and so she was called back Coast Guard right off of Christmas. And so by the time she got back again, she got all of her pieces at the sheriff's, but she didn't have enough time to get it done, so she was called back again. And so ultimately, after everything, it took about a year and a half, which is honestly, I understand having, and you actually have people that are military and stuff. You might get a week break here or a 2-week break there, or sometimes you might have a month break, but it's never enough. So in this case, it was never enough for her to actually get the whole conceal and carry process done. And she was unallowed to actually take those things. Like, she was unallowed to get her fingerprints from a local sheriff in Maine and then have it sent here. She was unable to get like her fingerprints when they were done, to actually get them to the sheriff, and the sheriff sent them straight to the attorney general, that kind of thing. And so essentially what this bill did, it only adds like 2 small portions to the actual 2591, or to the actual issue, and they're really small, but that's what this bill did, was to make it so that she could get it. Well, anybody that's active duty could actually get their conceal and carry quick enough. And so, and one more thing, I know I'm kind of talking long, but in this,
that's okay.
Like, people are like, well, hey, you in Kansas, you can just carry. You don't need your conceal and carry and all that. Well, this is true, but you can't cross state lines, without it. And so her mom, that was one thing that her mom was really worried back and forth. She wasn't flying. And so when she's driving, her mom wanted her to be able to have that, which is completely understandable. And so it wasn't like she could just sneak it along or do something like that. She felt like it was a bigger issue. And so, yeah, it was brought up 2 years ago to me. We put it off we were asked to kind of wait on it. And then this year, I actually was going to introduce the bill myself, and instead I introduced it in Military, Veteran, Homeland Security, thinking that would be just a quicker way to get it, to kind of gives a nod to the committee to do it through there. It's always going to end up in Fed and State. At least that's kind of where those gun bills go. And so, but it gives a nod to the actual veteran, Military, Veteran, Homeland Security too. So my name didn't even get. I was looking up my bills, and it doesn't even say that I even brought that bill. But it's because it came out of Military Veteran Committee. So, but that's okay with me. I'm not so prideful that we can't get something done for our veteran, or for our military, and for conceal and carry for our gun rights.
So with 2591, or now under 2502, when the language was put into that bill, under that now, if a person who's active duty, and they have to be active duty in the bill's language says they have to be active duty personnel,
right?
And they're stationed out of state, then they can actually go through what is considered with our Attorney General's office an adequate or equivalent course. Is that right? In another state. Yeah,
you're kind of breaking up a little bit. I think
I'm sorry.
I think I'm understanding what you're asking, but yeah, essentially what it is that, and it really comes down to, well, there's a couple of different things. In the military, myself, like I've done, and it depends on what you actually are doing. I don't know how it is for Coast Guard, but most of the time officers are trained with handguns. And so for me, when we went through basic, I was infantry. When we went through basic, we did all our long rifle, but we didn't do handguns until I got to I think it was phase 2 of Special Forces, the training course and everything. And so we used handguns, and we did a month's worth. I mean, just nonstop. Going through the whole process nonstop. And so yeah, I've shot more rounds than most people ever will. But that being said, not everybody in the military gets that same training. So when I do that training, that actual phase 2 training, what comes out is it comes out a certificate, and it's complete exactly what I did for a month with the handgun. And you'll qualify and all that kind of stuff. And so essentially that particular piece would be it would qualify as enough. But like, let's say the girl who was having issues and going back and forth, if she did a conceal and carry in Maine, it would be adequate if the Attorney General decided that it was adequate. And it's very possible she did a week course up there and it was able to get it in Kansas, or get her conceal and carry in Kansas just by doing that course and sending it to back home, essentially, and so that they could actually say, yes, this is going to be enough to cover exactly what we require in Kansas. And so, yeah, you can, but it's not just that, it's also the security part of it too, because in the military, and this is one of the harder things, but in the military, like, oh my goodness, man. I mean, I got pulled in and the captain who was in charge of our basic, he pulls me in and he says, okay, so what's up with this? And I was like, what? And I look on there, and I had gotten like 5 tickets before I left Wichita. It's because I switched the wheels on my truck and they were different diameters, so I kept getting tickets and I didn't know what was going on. Well, he pulls me in and he's like, what's up with all these tickets? And I'm like, holy cow, man. They go back and they do all this background and all this before you get your secret and your top secret. And so and it took me 2 years to get my top secret, I think. I mean, it was ridiculous. And so it's background and everything, and yet we do so much less here in Kansas for conceal and carry. So in this case, it gives you an opportunity to fingerprint and do kind of the background thing. If that needs to happen, all that stuff can be done and then sent in also, and the Attorney General basically say, okay, this is good enough. And so it's not to put a bunch more work on the Attorney General. Honestly, that's just not going to happen. There's not enough. But what it really does is it allows active duty, because a veteran, I mean, I can go get my conceal and carry right now, and I'll go through the normal process. I don't need to do it. But an active duty person who's stolen away, they still have their, I say stolen, but they have to go back and report. But they kept their residency in Kansas. I just felt like that was the best way to do it. So it's a bill that's not real intrusive on anybody else. All it does is it honors our and it streamlines it so they can get their conceal and carry much quicker. So
right. And that, and that's only right, I think. And from our perspective, from the KSRA's perspective, is that, we want to see our active duty and our veterans treated correctly when it comes down to the Second Amendment issues. And, in this area, it cleans it up and makes it easier for them. And the story you told about the young lady that was stationed out of state, I mean, that's sad,
oh man.
For me, honestly, here I am, for myself, when I did my concealed carry process and got my CCL, I think it was a matter of a month.
Yeah.
If that. That I, from the time I applied, got my application and my fingerprinting done and everything at the sheriff's office, and got it sent off, and with my $132.50, and boom, a month later, thing came in the mail. And I think probably, other people can testify that it's probably been about the same for them too.
Right.
But, for our military to go for a year, I mean, that's just, that's absurd in my mind, anyhow. Yeah. As one guy, anyhow.
No, I agree.
To make it easier for them and to honor them. And, of course, too, we have 3 major military bases here in our state, Fort Riley,
right,
Fort Leavenworth, and McConnell. And all of which, have folks that have, I know several that have Kansas concealed carry licenses now, and they are not from Kansas.
Right. Right.
But originally, and they've went through that whole process, and it was easier for them while they lived in the state and they weren't actually a resident of the state to begin with than it was for this young lady. And that's just so I'm glad this is being done. So, and we are as a as an organization, glad this was done.
Right. Right.
And to honor our veterans.
And I mean, with the way that it actually happened, because the mom actually testified. She came before the the House Fed and State Committee, and I testified. And there's nobody that went, oh my gosh, this is a bad bill, or anything like that. Everybody made sense that there was no issues with it, and I believe that's why it came through the way it did on with the conference committee and being stuck in there, because for the most part, there's just nothing really bad about it. I mean, if we had an onslaught of these of active duty, people getting their conceal and carry and sending it to the attorney general, you might have an issue, but that's what they do. So yeah, that's the thing. Is it a lot of sense for our active duty and for conceal and carry and for security of our state and our active duty folks. So I think it's definitely been a good thing. So.
No, and of course under 2502 now. Just want to remind folks of the numbers and all this stuff. It gets kind of convoluted. I understand for the just a layperson looking at it. And they say all these bills, and I've talked to Blake and JR about this too. How all these bills came to be this bill.
Yeah.
From your perspective, again, just to give a refresher, some people might not watch the other videos and they might watch this one.
Okay.
just give a refresher on the procedural process of how you get to that conference committee and how the bills are stuck then into 2502, a shell bill.
Yeah. And that's a good question. It's such a strange way that it works. And there's a couple different ways that it could be happening. Like, for one, if you think about it, and this tends to happen with leadership. You have people that we choose, representatives in the House and in the Senate. We choose the people who are our leadership, Speaker of the House, and they have a lot of power in kind of where things go, and they choose the chairman and the chairman. So you got speakers and chairmen, and they choose what bills we hear, what we listen to, what we consider. And so early on, I brought this bill. I brought it through Military Veteran Homeland Security, and then it was sent straight to Fed and State from that committee. So it was a committee bill, and it went straight to Fed and State. Then Fed and State, I just talked to the chairman and said I'd like to hear this bill. So she's going to check, and she makes sure that it's blessed. She talks to the Kansas Rifle Association. She talks to everybody else and anybody, and then it basically get into leadership. And if it's a blessed bill, it's going to get heard. It's going to move forward. I mean, it didn't have to even be a blessed bill, but ultimately in this case, it looked like it was a good bill. So we got a chance to have the bill heard. And once it was heard, normally it's worked, then it's sent to the Senate, then the Senate hears it, works it, and then everybody passes it to a conference committee, and the conference, if there's anything they want to hammer out between the Senate and the House, they hammer it out. Then both sides do their respective votes on that conference committee report, and then it goes to the governor. But in this case, what happened was, and this, I know they've said it, but what happened was a bunch of different bills was turned to the House, worked in the House, but then it was never sent over, run out of time or what. Now, if that's the case, you might have a Senate bill or a conference committee report or a bill that basically you wrap a bunch of bills in because you want them, or a particular person wants them. So they'll carry it into a conference committee and say, yeah, we'll do the BB gun bill, but I want the military, we want the military conceal and carry bill too. And so pretty soon you might get 5 bills wrapped in. Now there's rules that determine how many you can actually put together. We decide that. Some of us don't like a bunch of bills wrapped together because you might put, and this is the case, I voted against bills that I voted for before, just because you have one bill that's bad and 3 that are good. It's very difficult when you start wrapping bills together. But in this case, and with the BB gun bill, with the military, active duty military conceal and carry bill, those are good bills. JR's bill, they're all good bills. I felt so that was an easy one, and actually I think it passed pretty overwhelmingly too.
Yes,
I can't remember. I can't remember if it even had. Well, I had some vote against it, obviously, but
It was
not,
it was 32-6 in the Senate, and then 92-28 in the House.
yeah, that sounds about right. That's basically the
So,
libs. But anyway, yeah, it's so that's how it comes about. There's some it's hard to, I mean, there's some distaste in the way conference committees work sometimes, conference committee reports, but in this, these were good to get out. And so you can be bought by bills. People, like, I know Blake worked really, really hard to get his forward, and his really helped mine. And his is very important to the schools, and it's very important, you know, what it says and what it does. And so it's one of those things that, you know, Blake, now, you know, the speaker or somebody who blessed that bill and got that forward in a conference committee report. Now, Blake, you could say he owes somebody one, if you will, or something like that. Not really, but that's kind of how it works. You're working for certain things, and other things or other bills tend to be almost payment for other things. It's, I mean, I guess that's politics, if you will, but that's kind of how it happens. So
I know that people get somewhat disillusioned by that, and in that anger or frustration or whatever you want to call it is kind of in a movement in the country.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you know, I worked at the legislative level, of course, for 2 years for 4 different legislators, and so I kind of watched the sausage being made for a while, and then I was on campaign staffs and stuff like that, and have done legal research and legislative research for those guys. But you know, people don't realize that truly, you know, when we go to work every day, let's say put it in the layman's terms, you know, when you go to work every day, and you have something that you know, project you're working on, whether it's electrical. I was an electrician for 5 years, and and you know, there's things that sometimes you have to work with your coworker, you know, to work things out.
Exactly.
For instance, you know, well, we're going to go to this project today, and he may say, "No, we're going to go to this project today."
Right. Right. Exactly.
And there's things that you have to work out, and there's always personality conflicts in any job you go to. You come to the legislature, there's going to be personality conflicts. There's going to be things where, you know, person A doesn't agree with person B on whatever issue it may be. And folks don't understand that, and they think, well, that shouldn't affect things. Well, in an idealistic utopia, yeah, it probably shouldn't. But we don't live in a utopia.
This is true.
We live in a real world where there's Republicans and Democrats and independents and people even in the Republican Party that don't agree with each other, and even people in the Democratic Party that don't agree with each other. And so you have to get all these people on board, and then especially with the Republic process, not Republican, but Republic process that we run through. We have leadership, and so we're actually going to be doing a video about this. Our president really, she thought, man, we need to do an instructional video on how a bill becomes law. and things like that, you know. And so folks understand what's going on, you know, down in Topeka, rather than you guys are a bunch of bums that don't do anything. You know?
You know, that would be really good when it comes to, people get lost when they go, oh, it passed the House and it passed the Senate, but they get lost in the little things because you just think it goes from the House to the Senate to the governor, and that's essentially what it does. But there's so much in between. Like I get hammered on education when a bill is what I call it is essentially just an idea. Before it actually even is heard, it's just an idea, because like there's people walk around with the bill, they haven't even introduced it yet, and then I start getting hit by taxpayer funded lobbyist groups saying, hey, vote against this, and then I got parents and teachers and everybody screaming at me. I'm like, guys, it's just an idea, you know, it's nothing yet. I was like, once it actually gets heard, then you're going to be able to tell. And that's the thing, is people don't understand what heard is. They don't understand what a bill being worked is. They don't understand that has to happen in both the House and the Senate. And then even then, everything can change in a conference committee report, and then it might not pass. pass again. You know,
Yeah.
when you lump 10 things together and the House or the Senate didn't like it. So many chances for something to not happen. It actually is nice when, you know, Blake's bill gets through. It's nice when my bill, JR's bill, when these bills get through that actually are good legislation, not bad at all. They're good. Unless you're anti-gun, they're not good, or they're not bad at all. So,
And two, the minutia that goes on there.
oh yeah, that's a
we
good
got
point.
to draw it to a close here, but just on an ending note, the minutia that does go on, folks can get disillusioned about that. But I want to encourage you, from a social media director and a board of director, nobody guy, I guess, a citizen. Encourage folks out there that are watching tonight, and they're going to watch this video later on, that there are all these checks and balances, and that they're there for a reason. It's so that garbage legislation doesn't get through, is what it is.
Agreed. Agreed.
And if somebody just came up with an idea and threw it out there on a piece of paper and said, "Well, do you agree with it?" "Well, I agree with it. Let's go with it."
Right.
And there was no talk. There was no hearings. There was no working of the bill. There was no thought placed down through the language, the legal aspects and ramifications. Then we would have a mess. I mean, an absolute mess.
Absolutely, I agree. And there's been bills. Oh my gosh, I can even name bills literally off the top of my head. I can name bills just that are. They literally are just a mess, and thankfully it gets stopped before it ever starts almost on many of the bills. And there's so many in the minutia. There's so many checks. There's so many balances. So many different things that can kill a bill or stop a bill. I mean, just even in committee, tabling a bill and everybody knows it'll never come back up. Those are really good options to have when it comes to just junk. And then there's bills, though. I mean, there's bills that you'll work on and people work on for all year long, and then at the very end, it'll get tied to something in the conference committee, and then it's going down, and then they have to pull it back out and put it on something else. I mean, so if it is a good bill, normally it floats, and if it isn't a good bill, it normally just burns. So
it's a great process. It really is. It's hard.
Oh, yeah.
And it's heartbreaking for some guys. I know freshmen and junior senate, junior representatives, or even senior, legislators that have stuff they've worked on for years, maybe.
Right.
And then it just falls apart at the last minute.
Oh yeah.
It's just it's the way our republic works, and it's the way our state, gets stuff done. And that's why it took 10 years from the time we had concealed carry in 2006, then on to constitutional carry in 2015, almost 10 years to get that fully accomplished.
Right.
But it's it's a process, and I learned a lot from our past president, Patricia Stone King. Did research work for her, and now working for Kathleen, I learned a lot from her too. And
awesome.
And she has a law degree and has a lot going on upstairs that I don't.
Right.
But it just it's, you learn something new every day, and I think we're blessed with what we've got as a system. But as far as this bill and your part of it, it just helps out the military guys that are active duty to be able to take that course elsewhere if they're out of state, and they get that taken care of, send their fingerprints in to the attorney general, to the sheriff's office, excuse me.
Yeah. And then it's sent.
Get it to the attorney general, and they can get their Kansas concealed carry license, and they're in another state, and they're deployed, and they may, be deployed for a while or whatever, and come back to that location, like yourself when you were an operator as well. You were in and out of country, and so it's, and then they can have it if that state has reciprocity with Kansas, and 37 states out of the 50 do. So we're so glad that it made it through, and congratulations. on your part and the work that you did. I know you worked on it, and you got people in there to testify, and you worked on the bill. And it's not the only thing you did all session long either.
Nope.
You had
it wasn't.
whole bunch of other stuff that you did too. So,
Right.
but as far as our stuff goes, Second Amendment issues, this was the one thing that you worked on, and we appreciate it. We really do.
Well,
And
certainly my pleasure. Certainly my pleasure.
and again, we appreciate your service. You've been in places, and we can't talk about, but you've been in places that has saved our butts.
Yeah.
And people don't know that, and we need to say thank you, and we do.
That's also my pleasure.
Well, and we got Forrest coming up next. He's gonna back cleanup tonight.
Good. He'll do a good job.
He's coming. Senator Forrest Knox is going to be with us probably here in just actually at 9:30, and I'm going to be on the phone with him here in about 10 minutes or so. So I'll be getting him on, and folks will be able to hear what he has to say about his core part of the bill, SB 65 and 66, and campus carry and some other issues too. So, but it was great having you on, Kevin, and great talking to you again. Always is, and we'll keep talking as time goes on. But that's awesome to have you and taking time out. By the way, folks, this guy was doing decking on the back of his house on his night off, if you will.
Yeah.
And he took time out of that to talk to us, and thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you very much, man.
So, Kevin, we'll stay in touch and take care of that district down there, and those people. They're blessed to have you. So, folks, if you need any more information, by the way, Kevin, if they want to get a hold of you and they're constituents of yours, how can they do that?
They can get a hold of me a couple different ways. Actually, I have my email that I give to all my constituents is Kevin Jones for Kansas. It's just real simple at gmail.com. And so it's all spelled out KEVIJONES RKASAS@gmail.com. So they can get a hold of me anytime via Gmail. And also, if you go to my website, I think on Facebook, website, Twitter, you can find me on all those things. And I think my cell phone's on there too. So for the most part, my constituents have no trouble getting a hold of me on my cell phone. So any of those ways is just fine.
And above and beyond that, he's the dad of 6. Is that right?
6, and we got one on the way.
So you're a busy man, and we appreciate you. We appreciate we appreciate your time. So for tonight, for right now, I'll let folks go, and we'll get back on with Senator Forrest Knox here in just at 9:30 live right here on not on Facebook, on YouTube, and we'll be talking to him. So. Kevin, thanks again, and we'll talk to you later, sir. Yeah.
We'll see you. Thanks a lot.
All right. KSRA, folks, we'll talk to you at 9:30 with Senator Forrest Knox. Thanks so much for watching. Bye-bye.